This is Elizabeth Thorpe, and I'm going to provide an extended examination of the reasons for the departure of the sisters from the Oratorio de San Giuseppe. My research question under consideration for this paper addresses the mystery of why the Figlie di Maria Ausiliatrice closed their oratory in 1968 and moved out of the property at 233 Via della Lungara. Considerable work had already been completed by previous MA cohorts, especially Maria Vittoria di Sabatino, and this writer is indebted to their efforts. This current research provides a synthesis of elements contained in the previous MA cohort publications and adds a socio-historical context to the years surrounding the departure of the nuns. By adding the socio-historical context, a fuller picture can be gained to understand possible additional resources for the sisters leaving this mission. The story of the sisters begins with John Bosco, a priest from Turin who had focused his ministry on educating young boys and rescuing them from a life on the streets. In addition to providing a hospice for the boys, he promoted training in trade skills to prepare them to be able to support themselves and their future families. In 1859, he formalized this work into his religious order for men, the Society of St. Francis de Sales. This order became known as the Salesians. In 1864, John Bosco traveled on a hiking holiday to Mornese, a village in the Piedmont, located about 100 kilometers southeast of Turin. There, John Bosco encountered Mary Domenica Mazzarello, a nun who was devoting her life to evangelizing girls and providing them with education and training in seamstress skills. They quickly found a common purpose, and John Bosco saw the opportunity to add a female version of the mission to his Salesian family. 8 years later, in 1872, the first group of nuns in the order of the Figlie di Maria Ausiliatrice made their final vows. We know the order today in English as the Daughters of Mary Help of Christians, Salesian Sisters, or FMA. The charism of the order was to focus on evangelizing impoverished children by providing education and healthy recreational activities. Together with this focus on education, training in vocational skills was included to support the goal of rescuing young people from criminal activities, prostitution, and homelessness. At the same time, catechesis in the foundations of the Catholic religion was provided to point the children toward a life of virtue and dignity. 20 years after its founding, and after establishing missions in South America and Asia, the Salesian Order of Nuns migrated down the Italian peninsula to Rome. Here, in 1894, they established their presence at Via Marghera. They continue to occupy this location today and have added the capacity to be an overnight guest house for women. Within 5 years of moving to Rome, the nuns had rented space in Bosco Porasio and had begun the mission of providing education and recreational services to the economically disadvantaged children of Trastevere. The program met an existing need, and enrollment increased to the point that this space soon became inadequate. Within 3 years, the sisters began looking for a suitable alternative location. With the help of the priest from Santa Dorotea, the nuns identified space at Via della Lungara 233 and obtained permission from the Salesian Provincial to purchase the property. Lacking the money, they were advised to pray to St. Joseph. According to the stories told within the order, after they prayed, the money appeared, and the school was subsequently named Oratorio Festival Femminile San Giuseppe. 3 expansions to programming occurred in the ensuing years. In 1904, the Patronato Giovani Artisti e Operai was created with support from the Jesuits and provided skill training for the girls. With the support of Monsignor Francesco Faberi, a powerful Vatican official, an after-school program was opened in 1907. And in 1916, the sisters initiated the Colonia Marina program, in which they provided trips to the seaside for girls. The attached visual provides a graphic representation of 30 years at the oratory. Using simple mathematical calculations, dividing the total participants by the number of years reflected, the average Colonial participants each year was 54, the workers 79, the after-school program 75 annual participants, and the oratory 176 average participants. The novitiate would have included around 24 additional members each year. The assessment in the 1929 Bollettino Salesiano was that the programs were flourishing. However, finances were forever a source of uncertainty for the sisters. To fund ongoing activities and building expansions required a combination of donations from patrons, raffles, and fundraisers, as well as direct solicitation through begging in the neighborhood. The question now arises as to why, 30 years after having a flourishing operation, did the sisters give up the property in Trastevere? Although financial difficulties have been proposed as the reason for their departure, it is possible that the more comprehensive answer may rest with the convergence of several factors. A review of historical and sociological events leads to reasonable hypotheses as to the choice by the congregation to close their oratory in Trastevere. These events, combined with the financial challenges, are credible determinants of the decision to close the Oratorio Festival Femminile San Giuseppe at Via della Lungara 233. The first of these factors is a socio-political one. In the 1960s, the Italian government enacted regulations requiring school for all children up to the age of 14. Since the end of the war, there had been a movement to extend compulsory schooling past the age of 11 and to establish consistency in the middle school curriculum. This shift to formal education would have decreased the allure of training in domestic skills in favor of structured educational curriculum. Secondly, the so-called economic miracle of the 1950s and 1960s resulted in increased prosperity for Italian families. The culture change brought about provided the availability of alternative activities for young people, such as movies and sports. In addition, the presence of television sets increased to 49% of Italian homes in 1965 from 12% in 1958. Concurrent with this economic change was a decrease in the importance of the church. Mass attendance fell, with a drop in attendance from 69% of adults in 1956 to 40% of adults in 1968. It is possible that the improved economic status of families, coupled with the decreased focus on the church, may have contributed to diminished enrollment and financial support for the oratory. The Second Vatican Council promulgated 3 documents with direct impact on religious life. The first, Lumen Gentium, decreed that all Christians were called to holiness, thus reducing the special status of those in religious life. The second, Gaudium et Spes, emphasized the importance of full participation in the secular world rather than withdrawing from it in cloistered or restricted living. Finally, the document known familiarly as the Decree on the Up-to-Date Renewal of Religious Life opened the door to radical change within religious life, which modernization of practices, dress, and living circumstances created an upheaval and threatened long-standing traditions of religious life. The ultimate result of these changes was a drop in the number of religious, and according to data reported by Servizio Informazione Religiosa, the Salesian congregation experienced a 30% drop in number of sisters between 1965 and 2015, with the greatest declines occurring in the first 3 decades. Although the Salesians are a thriving congregation today, they may well have experienced an exodus of novices and professed sisters in the 1960s. Furthermore, the council resulted in a shift from evangelization to ecumenical cooperation, which could have diluted the order's focus on indoctrinating their charges in the Catholic faith. Finally, it is possible that the oratorio was abandoned in favor of other, more professional and more current activities of the sisters. The attached map provides a visual illustration of the other missions of the Salesian sisters, missions in Rome which have prospered through the ensuing years. Reassigning resources from Via Lungarda to these other thriving operations may have been the decision made by the sisters to make the best use of their personnel. In summary, it is possible that these additional 4 factors, Vatican II, educational standardization, the economic miracle, and competing priorities within the order, combined with the financial challenges, led to the decision by the Figlia di Maria Ausiliatrice to close their mission at Via della Lungarda 233 in 1968. Thank you.